I like to get to actually pretty, oh, wait, I need to do the screen share and then I can, there we are. So in the screen share, let me show you my Maya first and foremost. So this is my little dude, and you can see that if I click, I split it very differently than Zach. I split the head. Let me actually show you. If you look, I split the head right all in the middle, all the way in the middle, so that in my UV editor, let me make it a little bit bigger so you can see it bigger. You see the head, I have the profile of it. And then I did a mistake, but I decided not to fix it just because it was fine. It actually is nice to show you mistakes, right? So you learn not to do it. What I regret is that I did not split the feet from the pants. That is, Zach told us in that video, oh, you know, that's okay, just separate the bottom of the feet. So I kind of said, fine, I'll do that. And then later I really regretted it because when I went in Photoshop to color, what is going on? When I went to color in Photoshop, it somehow created some problems because I need to figure out how do I keep this edge clean versus if I had the feet, if I had done one cut down here, then it would have been probably better because then my feet would be separate. Just to follow up, what I mean here is if I go in my Photoshop, so you remember how after you do this, you click on this button right here and you create a snapshot. That snapshot you load in Photoshop. So if I was to take off all my layers, I forgot one, that's what I get, right? When I do my snapshot. And as you can see, I have the arms separate from the hands, from the head, from the torso, from the bottom of the feet. The only thing is, you know, one of the pieces of the pants has the feet in there. That generated something like that here was really easy, but here wasn't. By the way, I did not do a very nice tidy, obviously, painting. I was going on the really fast move. I was saying, hey, I'm going to do some big blobs, and that's okay. So the edge, though, between the brown and the blue here is very messy. I don't like that. It's not going to show up that much in Maya, but I kind of don't like it. So if you haven't yet done your cutting of the dude, I recommend you actually don't separate just the bottom of the feet, but definitely the at the ankle, basically cut it at the ankle just like you cut it at the wrist, right? The wrist was easy because you had, okay, the hands are skin color and the sleeves are the color of the shirt, that in this case is orange, but at the feet it should be the same, right? The shoes are brown and the pants are blue, so I'm going to make a cut right in there. So every time you change color, you want to, you know, separate those materials. So I have this image that after I painted it, I saved it as the default Maya name that is out UV _ dude PSD. And I'm in my Maya. And how do I assign it to my dude? If you guys remember, what you want to do is, and you don't even have to have the character selected, you need to go in the hypershade and create a material. Now, I have the hypershade up here. If you don't, you need to go and I'm looking for the icon right here. This is the icon for the hypershade right there, right? If you click here, in my case, it appears right here. In your case, it probably won't. Oh, by the way, this is the material I created. So I'm going to go in and actually, sorry, I created this blend material already. I actually tested it already. So I'm going to actually delete it. Okay, so imagine that I don't have the material. Do you remember the last class I actually had made some blend color just to assign to my character face by face? So I had selected all the faces of the head, and I had given it the skin material. I had selected all the faces of the pants. I had given them that blue material, and then all the faces of the shirt I had given that blend 2 material. But then I also told you, what if you want to do some more, you know, sophisticated stuff, like have buttons on the shirt or having kind of like the cheeks a little bit more colorful? And as you can see, that's why we went into Photoshop. This is the cheek, this is the eyebrow. I have a few buttons on the shirt. I could obviously have beautiful logos on the shoes. He's wearing some kind of fancy shoes by some fancy company. I can easily do that. But what you need to do here, first and foremost, is create a material. So I'm going to go under browser and actually, sorry, take it back. I'm going to go under material viewer. Oops. Gosh. I'm sorry, my I tried to reset my Hypershade, but I'm not very successful. I tried 2 or 3 times and still hasn't really worked that well. So if I go in my Hypershade under window and I choose, so funny. Oh, it's possibly. Oh, it's right here. That's why I can now activate it. Right here, I have all my various tabs, and I bet somewhere I have also materials. I would hope. Nope, materials right here. So if I want to create a new material, actually, let's do this. Since we're not using these anymore, let's take one of these, like Blend 1. I'm going to double click on it. And as I said, I will reset my Hypershade one day to work just like a charm. So instead of the color, what we want to assign is that PSD file. So I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to go under not file, be careful about that, but PSD file. And so it looks like nothing happened, right? But if you notice down here, it says image name, and you click on this little folder that allows you to browse to the image that you want to load in there. And I'm going to put our UV dude that I just created. And you'll see that my material takes a weird shape. Do you remember that earlier that blend color was bright blue, right? It was the color of the, I believe, the pants. But now it takes this M in there. And look what happens when I select my dude. And I middle mouse click and drag it on the dude, drag that material on the dude. As you can see now, and I'm going to minimize the Hypershade, this is what happens. It simply loaded that image that I painted very roughly and crudely in Photoshop onto my character. So now if you look and zoom, your character has all those detail that you wanted right in there. You even can, I actually did a terrible job because I did not want to take the time. But as you can see, you can even have, you know, the eyebrows. No, they're not that bad actually. So it looks pretty good. It's quite a nice, neat job that you can do with these features. Now, the thing that is kind of weird here is that the buttons are very flat. So another thing that we can do, and let me try to move the zoom interface out of the way so I can see it better. Oops, sorry. Another thing I can do is if I do go in the Hypershade and I select that blend material and you scroll down, you know, a little bit more. There we are. Instead of color, right? Do you remember color here takes you to that image? But then if you scroll a little bit lower, and right now, unfortunately, my Hypershade is so bad that alpha use, sorry, 1 second. One of the options you have here is actually the ability to load a bump map. So another thing you can do, and by the way, notice here you have something called place 2D textures, and that's actually another option where you can find your bump map. So another thing you can do is take your Photoshop image, turn it into black and white, and use white where you want things to stick out, and black where you want things to go in, to be recessed. So in the case of the button, and I don't have that map, but because you have, even the bump map, you have to obviously paint it, right? Means in Photoshop here, I did a really crude job. If I wanted to, let me do file save as, and I'll just show you. Unfortunately, I like to do all this with the stylus, and that's a problem because I don't have right now a stylus. And I'm going to call it bump map. So what you would do is you would take your Photoshop file, you would want to name it bump map, and you would want to turn it black and white. Do you remember, guys, how I taught you there are so many ways to turn things to black and white? In 182, there are 5 different ways, one of which is calculation, blah, blah. You can decide what to do in terms of turning it black and white. The truth is, in this case, it doesn't matter that much because you're going to go and actually paint on top of this black and white image where you want truly the white to be, that means the part that stand out, that come out, are the white is maximum protrusion. The black is maximum, you know, recessions and, you know, going in. So you will have to go in with it. Honestly, stylus is the best way to go. I have a hard time imagining how to do it well on a with a mouse or with a trackpad. But let's go in and do the minimum we have learned in order to do a black and white image is to desaturate. You guys remember that, right? Oops, sorry. I know what I've been doing. Well, what did I do wrong, guys? I'm going to flatten the
You
image.
just desaturated the one layer.
Right. Thanks, Allison. Obviously, you need to I completely forgot I had all those layers because I did this last week, obviously. But if you go in here and layer flatten first, and then you go under image desaturate, this time is going to work. It's not going to be just one layer. It's going to be the whole image. Okay, now that we have desaturated, what you would do in order to create this bump map is go in and paint, right? So you would say, okay, I'm going to go with white because I want certain areas of the button to really, the tip of the button to really stand out. So you would want to obviously hit the B now that you have the white color set. And remember, the square brackets help you making the brush tool. Oops, obviously I have it too big. For some reason, my brush right now is really big. That is a weird thing. Brush tool. Let's try again. Okay, so if I go with my square right now is better. Sorry, it had a little glitch. So if I go in here, and again, it's sad to do it with a mouse because I'm not going to do any precise of a job. And then you go in here and create this. And then you go in and say, okay, now I'm going to go with the black. I generally have black and white, and I use X to switch between the two. That's the fastest way to go. So let's say I know that the outer part needs to be a recess, but not too much, right? Because then you start interfering with the shirt. So you would want to make your brush really small, hit X. So you're painting with black, and then you go around and paint with black. You might not want to paint with black, though, because black will kind of almost create an indentation in the shirt. So what you might want to do is you might want to use a shade of gray. Say, hey, look, I'm going to go dark, but not 100% dark. So my point is basically what you have to do right now is go in and paint everywhere where you're going to find. I find myself so pathetic in terms of precision because I don't have my stylus with me. Most people that do this type of work in company like Pixars, they have Cintiqs. In fact, I have a beautiful talk of one of these artists that does the face of this Don Quixote. Is beautifully made, is amazing, but he uses this Cintiq that is really the way to go. As you can see, I'm doing pretty much very sad job right here. So you start basically creating that's just the button. Now you would want to do the same with the eyebrows. You would want to do the same with the cheeks, right? You would want to have here in the cheeks part that are like dark gray, part that are light gray. But bottom line is, so I went in, or like where the pants, here in the pants, I might have a zipper or a button. I can totally paint it in black and white. And then loaded this black and white map, once I did a good job with it, into the material, into the hypershade, onto the bump map option. And all of a sudden your character really takes shape. So that's kind of the entire process to do the little dude in terms of material really, really well, is to kind of like do all your cutting up. That is really honestly pretty easy. It's a matter of following that video that I provided, and then go in the hypershade, create a material, assign to that material instead of the color, the file that you painted, and then assign it to your dude. Then go back into the hypershade, assuming you already did this beautiful black and white bump map, go back into the hypershade and assign it to that same material under the bump map option in the hypershade, and that will allow you to give this three-dimensionality and a really high fine detail. Like in the video I have of the Don Quixote, this character artist basically not only paints the wrinkles of this guy's skin, but even the bags under his eyes and the kind of moles that are like protruding a little bit. And even where it has the beard, it makes all the little stubbiness of the beard, like the guy hasn't shaved yet. I will, the problem is let me see if my PC has a DVD player. My Mac does not play DVD, and this thing I have is on a DVD player. It's a beautiful lecture on how to do it, but I don't think my PC has a DVD player either. Yeah. All right, then we'll find a way, because I think it's really lovely to watch it happen. Paint that black and white bump map is really fascinating. So this is kind of the entire process for the dude. I'm going to stop it really, really quick because I want to go into a separate part of materials that is more related to 2D and 3D textures. So given these materials, so far we've been dealing with materials that have been flat in a way, right? The only way to create three-dimensionality is what I just told you, the idea of building this map, right? But this map is incredibly time consuming. So I wanted to give you an alternative in building material using these 2D and 3D effects that Maya has built in, basically 2D and 3D nodes. You remember up here, I wrote, you can see here it says place 2D textures, right? But we also have 3D textures. So I'm going to show you that next. It's never going to be ever as good as you painting the bump map, because painting the bump map means you truly is like an artist going in with a chisel and carving the wood or the stone, versus the materials I'm going to introduce in a minute that with these 3D textures are like, you know, a stucco material, and how Maya allows you to create that. But it's not something you can precisely, you know, go in and carve. It's something that is a built-in shader. They're called shaders anyway. Let me actually pause the or stop the recording and stop the sharing and dive into that.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
Does it matter which one you place on the dude first, like the bump map or the material?
No, actually, it doesn't matter. Good point. It's a great question. It doesn't matter. If you assign just the bump map, you will not see the colors. You will see the buttons. You know, you will see the protrusion of the buttons. Or if in the face you have a little stubble for the beard, you will see your character with a gray shader, but then with these little details coming out or going in, right? So if you assign the 3D like black and white map, you paint it. It will still give it this, you know, in and out effect, but it won't have any of the color. So if you wanted to, you could do the bump map and then assign the colors if you wanted to. It's really up to you. And also there are other kinds of map, right? There's something called reflection maps that also can be painted. It means if you, to be honest, materials in Maya should be an entire class. It means we could spend 10 weeks playing with materials and creating these beautiful maps and kind of pushing the characters to be outstanding, like every detail really well thought out. But this is an intro class. So for now, what I want to show you is what options do you have? What is the process that Maya wants you to follow if you want to achieve one result or another? So let me stop the sharing and stop the recording before I dive into the Hypershade again.